Okay, if you don't think we're waiting for anyone. Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is our May 4th, 2026 Historic Landmarks Commission meeting at Deschutes County. I officially call it to order at 5:31 p.m. We have Eli Ashley here, myself, Rachel Stumich, Chair, and Carrie Huddleston, thank you very much. So our first action item or agenda item tonight is always, we start off with public comments. And I don't know if we have any in the room or online.
So we have two people on Zoom who are at least observing, and if they'd like to make a public comment here at the beginning, they can use the raise hand function to identify themselves, and they'll be requested to be promoted to panelists if they want to make those public comments. All right, maybe just observers tonight.
Sounds good.
Oh, thank you.
We do have one.
Hi, my name is David Bilyeu, and I'm with Friends of the Tumalo Wildlife Corridor. And we work under a CMA with the BLM, and we maintain the kiosks, public information booths out in the Tumalo Reservoir. And I'm just want to bring a question forward to the Historic Landmarks Commission. I've been in touch with BLM multiple times about damage to the wheelhouse out in the out above the dam there. And my group has regularly painted over the graffiti and turned in issues to appropriate agencies when damage is being done. And we've been hoping for a real solution out there for this historical building. We were informed that BLM is working with the State Historical Preservation Office on the possibility of tearing it down. So I thought I should get the word out, and in the hopes that all appropriate agencies would have input into the question of, is this building a liability, or is it an historical artifact that should be saved? We don't have further information from BLM at this point. I think it's just under consideration as an option that they're looking at. I believe the wheelhouse is on BLM land on which they control. But from my understanding, various agencies do need to weigh in on what will happen with that building. So just here to submit that. I do have copies of the signs about the dam and the wheelhouse. I'd be happy to give to anyone who would like those. This is we actually made metal signs that are quite a bit larger, and they are up on our kiosk for public information. Unless there are questions, that's all I have.
When was this discussion first, to your knowledge, with BLM?
I think I had an email about 2 months ago.
Okay.
I think, and I haven't. I did write back to the to BLM and to their archaeologist, asking for further information. I haven't received anything as yet, so probably just on their discussion list to look at what to do. Of course, the rebar sticks out from that old building. It's a very narrow little ledge that some of the kids go out there on. And there should be a lot of concern about that. We don't want to see anyone, hurt out there. Concerning the graffiti and the painting, the BLM archaeologist has instructed Friends of the Tumalo Wildlife Corridor that we are not to paint over the graffiti. They informed us that that's as illegal as putting it on. So we no longer do that. We had done that for quite a few years before getting that notice from them.
So that means the graffiti's collecting, I can imagine.
Actually, what happened recently is some community members caught the students out there. This was like maybe about a month or so ago. And then got them to give them the information to call their parents. Their parents came with all the paintbrushes and forced the students to repaint over the graffiti. I then get a note from BLM saying, did you guys paint over that graffiti? Which I said no, and I related the story, but I don't know the community members who actually encountered the students. But we would personally, I think the whole Tumalo Dam history is an absolutely fascinating aspect of Deschutes
Really is,
County.
yeah.
And I would prefer to see the historical landmarks saved.
Mhm.
Well, BLM will need to, I mean, if they do propose any sort of action on the wheelhouse, they'll have to, contact the county as consulting parties, and that'll either go through the planning department or maybe they'll send us a letter directly. Will, do they usually send it through planning?
Yeah, so they'll, that would come through the planning department and
Right.
there's likely to be HLC engagement on that. So it's important tonight that while you receive information, you definitely don't want to give the opinion of prejudging an outcome of
Right.
something in the
Sure.
future or otherwise engaging with this material because you might be a hearings body associated with it. So, okay to listen. This is
Mhm.
all on a public record, but
Sure. But could the planning department request that the Friends group be considered a formal consulting party and also receive that correspondence?
at such time that we have an application.
Okay.
So one of the things we don't do is we don't sort of collect parties to future applications and then connect them in this case. But, once we have an application, Tanya's has spoken with this group and I'm assuming that these connections will be made.
Mhm.
Great.
And we have your contact information, or it's a matter of public record? Do we know how to reach you if,
Tanya?
okay, very good.
Yes, he does.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right. Anyone like a copy of our sign?
Yeah, I'd love to see one.
Yeah, me too.
I will. You're together?
Can I grab a copy there?
Yes.
I'll have one for the official record.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Hmm. Right. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. If there's no other public comments, we'd like to go on to our next topic, which is the approval of the February 2nd, 2026 meeting minutes. Those were sent out in April for review. I have taken a look at them myself. I did see one slight little correction. There was, I think the economic interest statement deadline was like the 15th, not the 1st of April, but that's the only thing I noted. Yeah. And so I approve the minutes if anyone else has had a chance to second that.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
So for our action items tonight, we have a couple of topics. We have the Camp Polk Cemetery presentation. And then after that, I think we're gonna have a little fiscal year work plan summary, and we'll also talk about the Oregon Heritage Conference. So we'd like to bring the Camp Polk Cemetery group up. You-
Cheers. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank
Good.
you.
Okay.
You just want to get the,
Oh, it's on your computer.
yeah,
Okay.
let's see,
Yeah.
see if it's gonna work right here. Yeah, forwarding back arrows.
Okay.
My microphone.
So my name is Rachel Woods, and I'm the Vice President and Secretary of the Camp Polk Pioneer Cemetery Preservation Committee. And I'm here today with the President, Mary Ann Strom-Fjord, and Bob Rembley, who's also on the board. And I just wanted to give you all an update about where the cemetery has been in the last few years and what's happened and where we hope to go from now, because there's been, I don't know if any of you are very familiar with the cemetery, but it's had a lot of change in policy and ownership in the last few years. So this is just a quote from the Deschutes Land Trust, Kelly Madden,
Mm-hmm.
and I just really like it. I think it is difficult sometimes for people, I think, to put value on places full of, the deceased or cemeteries. And I just think that they're highly valuable. Just says that cemeteries are a good place to rest. Heave a sigh, sit down, and in spite of all the pain and suffering, there's a lot of accumulated wisdom here. This can be a place to find answers. The past is under my feet, the future is above my head, and for this short time I exist entirely in this moment in no peace. This helps me understand my end. It also helps us understand why it is so vital to engage in cemetery preservation. That's pretty much why I became involved in cemeteries. I agree with that very much.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the history goes, the Camp Polk Cemetery came about at the homesteading of Samuel Hindman. He first homesteaded the meadow between 1868 and 1870. And his barn still stands there, which you probably are very aware of, and it's the oldest in Deschutes County that's still standing. And about 2 acres, or a little bit over 2 acres, was set aside for a burial ground. And that was at the death of Thomas Summers in 1880. And I thought that this picture we recently kind of dug up through one of the original board members' things that she passed on to the preservation committee. And I dug around and I went out to the cemetery and I figured out that I'm pretty sure that this is the burial of one of Martha Taylor Cobb Hindman Olson's brothers. So George Taylor, because he was buried there at about 1908 and the photo said 1907. So I'm pretty sure that's who's there, and that's what that picture's of. And you can see a little bit of a lump at the feet of the standing women, and I think that that's his burial there. That would have been in 1908. So as far as the history goes of the ownership, between 1880 and 1940, all was well, and it was owned by it was part of the Hindman property. In 1940, Martha Taylor Cobb Hindman Olson passed away, and she deeded the property to Thelma Roberts, who was I don't remember exactly the connection, but she was like a friend of the sister, or yeah, she was a family friend who I guess had interest in the cemetery, but she never returned she was also given $10,000 out of another woman who had died. her estate to care for the cemetery, to add running water, because there's springs nearby. And she just moved, and I found her, I think she died in Lincoln City, but or in further south maybe. And then but she had lived in Redmond also for a little while. So effectively between 1940 and 2022, the cemetery was abandoned and burials continued. And as you probably know, in 1985, jump ahead a little bit and then I can jump back, although it's got some of the same information. So in 1940, the cemetery is separated and given to Thelma. Thelma says, "Thank you very much for the money. I'll take it with to my family and move along." In 1983, Deschutes County designated the cemetery as a historic landmark. And in 1985, the Oregon Mortuary and Cemetery Board was created. From 1985 on, all burials have been technically illegal in the cemetery. And so this state of abandonment, it was also claimed or designated as abandoned by the Parks and Rec Department. And at that point, sort of nobody wanted to acknowledge that there might be an issue with it, with burials continuing. So in the early I think it was before 2022, maybe 2020, Bob is one of the OG board members. And is that when you guys started?
Yeah,
About then?
we got the title or started
Just started
the
cleaning up?
nonprofit.
Yeah.
I
started
started
the
cleaning,
nonprofit.
I've done that for 5 or 6 years. I'm a docent at the Sisters Historical Society.
Mm.
And so several of us go out there because that's a favorite tour place and we
Yeah.
want to clean it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, from, I think 20, these are the right dates, Rachel, of, we got the nonprofit in 2022, and then we got ownership at
Ownership
Deschutes
from
County
people.
in May of 2024.
Okay, yeah, so 2022, they're awarded they get nonprofit status. 2024, somebody actually owns it.
Hmm.
So now, we can seek grants and there are obviously legal repercussions because it's now sort of private property. And, at first, the original board tried to get licensed to bury, so that, because there are still a lot of people that want to be buried with their family members. And there's still some people that just do it anyway.
Mhm.
You know? The problem is that we don't know where everybody is buried. We have anywhere, I think one of the Oregon Historic Cemetery site, I think that's the one, it lists our number of burials at 150. And that's like, it's over 300. So, with at least 80 unknown burials. So without knowing where they are, then we can't really tell people, yes, you can go bury over here. Even if you're right next to your husband, we don't know if somebody else is in that spot.
Right.
So that's where we're going. So we decided to stop the process of trying to get licensed to bury, because it was going to cost at least another $10,000 just in fees. Plus, the most expensive piece is the ground penetrating radar, which is a mapping process where they can figure out where burials are by sending a signal and getting hits off of the coffins, or I think they can just do it pretty much where soil is disturbed down that far, because it creates like an arc that it'll bounce off of. So that's our next big goal, is ground penetrating radar. Any questions so far? No, okay. So these are things that we've accomplished so far. The first step, even before seeking funding for the ground penetrating radar, was just to show that the cemetery had ownership and that somebody was coming out and taking care of it. And so that's, so far we've put up a big kiosk, and we'll get the signs printed shortly for those once the design is perfected. And I'm working on that. So that's part of our upcoming goals, but we do have the kiosk built. We have legal ownership. We have nonprofit status. There's continual property improvements, mostly thanks to Bob over there. He just goes out and has friends that will that will limb trees and keep it fire safe. We've received several grants to build a shed and also to build this kiosk sign. We have lots of added signage, and each year the Heart of Oregon Youth Build and veterans come out and do a big cleanup. We do it on Halloween because everybody wants to be in a cemetery on Halloween, naturally. And we are doing educational walking tours every month during the spring, in the summer, and the fall. And we have been able to collaborate, and we're trying to do this more and more, collaborating with other organizations, because I think that the cemetery has been seen as sort of radioactive for a while, because people knew like burials are still happening, this is illegal, you know, and even the mortuaries don't really want to talk to us because they were, you know, part of that. But we're trying to change the narrative and move forward, and it's now solely going to be a preserved cemetery, or a historical, continue to be a historical landmark. We may, if we get ground penetrating radar, we may in the future try to help people if they you can get like a temporary burial permit under very limited circumstances. So that's a possibility, but that would be the only reason that we would open it back up. These are some of our bigger fundraising efforts, ground penetrating radar being the biggest one, security camera so that we can deter illegal burials. And if we've been real lucky, we don't have tipped over headstones and graffiti everywhere, but I'm sure that time will come, and in order to pay for things like that. We do need an accessible gate because there's a lot of people out there going out there that are wheelchair bound, and they can't currently, we just have it completely padlocked shut, and then there's walking access on each side, but that walking access is pretty narrow. So property survey, we need our property markers to encompass all burials, which they don't currently. So currently there's some burials on neighboring property because the markers are inaccurate. And everything else that goes into maintaining a cemetery. The road, the general landscaping, trash removal, which Bob and I, every time we go out, we just throw a trash bag in our car. Tree care, monument repairs, any legal fees, and all the little miscellaneous fees to having a nonprofit. And that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Questions?
I was generally aware of that some of the burials aren't necessarily on that property. The Landmarks Commission in the past has made a handful of visits out there over the years, so it's definitely an entertaining but just very informational place to be. And coincidentally, Kelly Madden would be one of the tour guides for a lot of those visits that we had. I think there's also a bit of confusion, or some people assume that the Deschutes Land Trust somehow is also affiliated with that and the Hyman Barn, and that's not correct either, is my understanding.
Didn't want that piece of the property, which
Mm-hmm.
is understandable. But I guess the people that stay with the Preservation Committee, we don't see it as radioactive. We just see it as a property to care for and
Mm-hmm.
preserve.
Right. And do as much as you can to, correct what's what's wrong or, you
Yeah.
know, but at the same time, it's like you're not going to backtrack necessarily on some of that. Just it's like it's definitely been an organic development as far as cemeteries go, it seems like.
Right, but
Yeah.
at some point, you know, that has to stop since they are
Right.
illegal, so
Hmm.
then our just part of the narrative changing has been that it's not going to, we're not going to be able to bury anybody else. And so we get emails and calls and stuff about that, and people are understandably upset because they, you know, when somebody else was buried there, they didn't know the
Right.
status of it.
Yeah. So where are you at in your fundraising and grant writing efforts?
We have a grant writer, Sharon Carr, who is amazing. So we just got a grant to finish the sign from the Deschutes Cultural Coalition. And she's going to write for bigger grants through Roundhouse. And there's one other, the Oregon Historic Cemeteries.
Okay,
We're writing for ground penetrating radar
nice.
for that. I don't know if we'll get it. Some of the grants that we had written for before, we didn't own the property yet, and so we couldn't write for grants for it. But now that it's owned, that's helpful. I think we were just turned down for one. I don't remember what that one was. You guys remember? No. Okay.
Yeah.
I know some of the grant, the writers like the Oregon Parks and Rec, Curry Gill, and they
Yeah.
have money for us, but you have to have deep enough pockets to do the project first, and then they will reimburse you afterwards.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to get, so that's a little, we don't have deep pockets at the present time to do a
Right.
project.
Mhm.
And pay for it and then submit the receipts to, so that's how, there's a couple different grant, sources
yeah.
are that way.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, it's so critical though, because I mean, on one of the big cleanup days on Halloween, which my 19-year-old thought was so cool, but I literally fell into a collapsed grave.
Oh,
And there's
no.
the only way you can find those, and thank goodness it was
Just falling
me and
into 'em?
not, you know, anybody
Sorry.
else.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, oh, well, I fell in a grave.
Yeah.
But anybody else would probably be a little more upset about it, or they could have gotten hurt. So, I mean, we go around and we try to make sure that in any like older cemetery can have that. It's
Oh, for
not
sure.
something that's unique to us, but having that ground penetrating radar is definitely something we need to get figured out. But, and the original board already has spent, you know, 10,000 plus $10,000 or $12,000 from their own personal money to get ownership and to get the 501c3
Oof.
through. So we're definitely hesitant to want to jump into anything where we think we'll get reimbursed, but you know, you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the challenge too is being a new 501c3 is that, you know, this is the first time a lot of grant or funding institutions have seen your name. And so they're, you know, that my understanding is like keep applying even if you're not getting those awards, because they will take notice eventually.
Yeah, and some of the modalities like handed to apply for grants are really challenging
Mm-hmm.
to get into, because you have to have access to everything, and then also get the IRS to send you a specific type of letter saying that you are associated with this, you know, this organization. So
Right.
it's pretty challenging unless you have, you know, and we all of course have our own stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
We do what we can, and like Bob says, sometimes when we're all in a rush to get something figured out and fixed, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Right.
Nobody's going anywhere. So we have it protected and we have ownership, so it's not gonna turn into a highway or
Right.
or a
Yeah.
target, so.
Yeah. Thank goodness. Well, that's great. That's a wonderful update. I'm really glad to hear that. I know it's been a concerning area for a lot of residents over the years, so, and for the commission as well. So that's really great news.
Yeah,
So,
if you have advice on grant writing and things like that, just send them our way.
okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rachel.
Oh, that's not my computer getting down, sorry.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item tonight is updates on the draft fiscal year work plan.
Thank you, Chair. Will Groves, your planning manager. Presentation up here. There we go. All right. So of course, we come to you every year with the Community Development Department draft work plan. This is a work plan that the Community Development Department puts together. And of course, Tanya Salzman, one of our long-range planners, comes out of the Community Development Department. And this gives a general overview of what we've done for the year, what we're aspiring to next year, and gives you an opportunity to give feedback on those activities. This ultimately goes before the Board of County Commissioners, who assigns our next year's work tasks and prioritizes them. So background, what is CDD and what's the work plan? We talked a little bit about that. And CDD is more than planning, so it also performs coordinated services. It's our building division, our on-site wastewater division, code enforcement, and now we're bringing in the natural resources department. So it was formerly the county forester, is now in the process of being brought to CDD, and all those community wildfire efforts associated with that. So the work plan goes through a process every year, January through March, putting together the plan, bringing it to the Planning Commission, which we've completed in April, and then bringing it to you for review, as well as onto the Board of County Commissioners for work session and public hearing. This is all available online for anyone who'd like to see it. So major themes of continued growth and development. We're seeing population growth driving demand for services. We're seeing legislative updates come every year out of Salem that impact planning, building safety, code enforcement. Of course, affordable housing and land use policies are key priorities. We're seeing complex land use cases that require that we ensure compliance with evolving state and local regulations. We're thinking about community services engagement, so website and digital services upgrades, as well as ensuring that we're responding to public inquiries in a timely manner and collaborating with our partner agencies, and we'll talk more about that later. Also, infrastructure and environmental concerns, so groundwater, a big issue, septic systems, sustainable land use planning, thinking about transportation systems and wildfire mitigation efforts, as well as working through digital tools to try to get some operational efficiency. So just some general statistics. Planning, which is our current planning division, received 639 applications, which is down from 660 the year prior. Building permits for single-family dwellings were also down slightly. We completed a pay and market equity study. This was a comparison against our sister jurisdictions to ensure that we're competitive as we try to hire basically the same people. And there was some adjustment in offered salaries and association with that. And so we're trying to amortize that cost. We had 7 new staff, 9 resignations, added 2 positions, so we're hovering at 57 full-time employees. And our veterancy, we're doing a lot better than we were in recent years. We've got 46% of the staff with more than 5 years of experience, and that's a big deal. Succession planning, about 20%, almost 20% of the staff are eligible for retirement in the next couple of years, and that includes some real heavy hitters in our departments. We're trying to make sure that we have some continuity there. And we've hired and onboarded some key roles. So a building official, assistant building official, doing hiring in the coming week for the natural resources supervisor, the former county forester. And we've also taken on an administrative supervisor for code enforcement. Let's see, we have talked about all of these issues. These are budget and operational issues previously mentioned. So annual report, CDD is committed to managing performance effectively. And so there's a variety of performance statistics that we monitor, and you can see in the report itself that we go into some depth about those operations. This is just some example ones about land use decisions that require either prior or do not require prior notice, and turnarounds in relationships to targets. If you think about how this works, this is really kind of a 3-legged stool where the community development department provides a service basically to the community in terms of ensuring land use is observed so that people can have predictability about the property, what's going to be developed around their property. You don't want a hog rendering plant or a asphalt plant popping up next to your rural residence. And so, but to do that in accordance with the ever evolving state and local regulations requires, a certain amount of effort, which requires a certain amount of staff effort, which requires a certain amount of fees to try and do that. And we're always trying to run as lean as possible. I was explaining this to somebody as I call it the backpacking problem. If you buy yourself a 65-liter backpack and go on a trip, you will find 65 liters of stuff to put in it. So we try to run as lean as possible, but the consequence is that there's some variability in our processing time as we try not to overstaff against bulges. Planning division. So we worked with the Board of County Commissioners to update a variety of state rule changes through housekeeping, did some major clear and objective housing compliance updates. So this was a push from the state level requiring that certain projects have clear and objective standards of them associated with them. So nothing that says compatible or suitable or other things that would result in just confusing discretion that can lead to either public controversy or ongoing litigation associated with those projects. The county comprehensive plan is still in progress and is currently remanded from the state courts, but may be appealed forward. And we did some outdoor lighting amendments, and those were very popular. The Board of County Commissioners land use activity had increased. They were doing more hearings than in prior years and dealing with more appeals into the state courts. So looking into 26, 27, your role here is to take a look at this plan, and then if you have any comments about any aspects of it, I'll take notes and carry those forward to the Board of County Commissioners. So some of our ongoing commitments, things that we can't really discard, is monitoring that 2040 comprehensive plan process. We've initiated an update to the Terrebonne Community Plan, which includes outreach, technical coordination with districts, and ultimately updates to goals, policies, and narratives. Sisters is in the process of expanding their UGB, and so those hearings will be coming through the Planning Commission. And also there is a large lot industrial study that has it's an opportunity on a multi-county basis to provide shovel-ready sites for large development opportunities for larger industrial industries. And so it's something that when you backing up a step, in Oregon, it's important that when you're going to do any development association with the city, you have to show that it's reasonably justified given your population and kind of foreseeable economic opportunity. And what was found is that there are some things that are more regional opportunities. And so regional partners, including a kind of a multi-county collaborative, went forward to take advantage of a state opportunity to create some larger sites targeted in Redmond and in some other areas for these larger lot industrial developments. And those there's a background report that's a part of that's been updated to look at what types of industries might come and how to be ready for those. Ongoing commitments, still thinking about groundwater protection. Shallow aquifer in the South County is seeing nitrate contamination from individual residential septic systems. And so we're monitoring that. Working through a natural hazards mitigation plan. That's a multi-agency effort to look at for planning code updates to ensure that, the foreseeable natural disasters that we have, that we're well situated to deal with those. Interesting highlight from a previous plan that I worked on. We had left to ourselves, we thought volcanoes were pretty unimportant. And then we had a volcanologist come and they said, "Do you see everything that's not flat around here?" And although the way that you rank these things is, how often is it going to happen? And then times how bad is it if it does happen? It turns out volcanoes are bad.
Yeah.
And we're coordinating with the Bureau of Land Management on sage grouse out east. Lots of stuff we're doing with the cities. I'll just bring you kind of a highlight from each. So for City of Bend, they're working on their Outback water treatment plant. So we get the water out of the kind of the Bridge Creek watershed, and that comes in kind of out there by Phil's Trail on the way to Tumalo Falls. And they have over many years a variety of updates that they'd like to put in out there. And so they're working on that process. City of La Pine, we're in the process of handing over addressing to them. So right now we do addressing for everyone but the City of Bend. And for all the other cities, we're in the process of handing over that addressing. And it's a surprisingly primary thing that happens because you can't do anything with a property that doesn't have an address.
Right.
And people have very different feelings about their address. They don't like the name. They think that, from whatever culture they're from, that number is unlucky. That's their address.
Yeah.
The fire department may have a different feeling than, than the paramedics about what the address should be in terms of getting there quickly. So lots of interesting issues in that space. Working with the city of Redmond on our joint management agreement. These are signed agreements about how we interact, and there've been some concerns over the years about when they expand the city of Redmond, do they take the road right of way adjacent that they're expanding and thus manage those roads, or do we get left with those? And do we end up with weird isolated islands inside the city as they do non-uniform expansion? So thinking about those issues. City of Sisters, of course, the UGB expansion process that I mentioned, that's a huge update for them, and they are just kicking that off.
Mm.
There's some zoning text amendments that this is something that my division works through in the course of the year, and I picked a couple for highlights here. Establish procedures for private burial grounds, oddly topical. So it turns out that in the past, when people had called us and said, "Hey, can I bury grandma in the backyard?" we said,
Mm.
"Go for it."
Oh,
It turned out that was not the right answer. The right answer is that we were supposed to be bringing that before the planning commission and ensuring that a document was recorded that said, "Hey, there's a person buried here.
makes sense.
Hear ye, know all future people not to dig right here." And so the county at minimum has to go through that process, and maximally some counties say, well, don't be burying them, within certain feet of water bodies, or right on the property line for just the reasons we discussed. Or down in the water table, for example. So the planning commission likely in the next year will review those regulations. Interesting opportunity came out of the legislation for farm stores. So certain types of agricultural activities have always, or agricultural operators, farmers have had opportunities to engage in farm adjacent activities, pumpkin patches, garden markets, agritourism activities. And one of the things that's been contentious in that space is agricultural adjacent activities. So let's say that you're raising llamas, and you're selling the wool, but you're also selling sweaters, and you're selling T-shirts, and you're selling refrigerator magnets that were made in China of llamas. There's some rules that have been relatively confusing, and what farmers have found pretty limiting on these adjacent activities. So some of the things that are coming up are a little bit of a release on like farm to table dinners, those things becoming more possible.
Right.
Some other interesting opportunities in that space. And by default, those come to the county as we have to allow them, and there are no sideboards on them unless we act. So we need definitely some need to ensure that they have the right number of porta potties, that they've got a flagger out there on the highway so that nobody's getting hurt. So looking into that area in the coming year. Natural resources. So this is the former county forester, and they do so much, and I'm going to be supervising this department, and I knew a little bit about it tangentially, and I'm learning an amazing amount every day. But they convene a tremendous number of partners, Project Wildfire, the neighborhood coalition associated with that. They also run the Noxious Weed Board. They update community wildfire protection plans and engage the public through all sorts of meetings and presentations. It's really different than the land use world that I come out of. That's a kind of a top-down system that's very regulatory and very litigious. And the work that they do is a lot of duct tape and chicken wire, and trying to encourage people to do the right thing. And hey, if we get a bin out at the edge of your neighborhood on Thursday, will you guys fill it up with a bunch of woody debris? That type of work. But they think a lot about fuels reduction, the sweat equity program, again, where we provide bins and neighborhoods can fill them up. That also is the fall fuel reduction, big projects in Lapine, and interaction with some of our big federal partners, particularly the BLM. So lots of work in that space. So after I collect your comments, if any, this evening, I'll be headed on to the Board of County Commissioners for work sessions and public hearings. This document isn't a kind of a formal decision document, but it's an opportunity for all of our kind of our appointed and elected boards to engage with what my department does over the year, give some feedback, and ensure that we're expending our resources in a way that everybody's real happy with, ideally. And with that, I'm available for, I made a special slide here. Just HLC
There's
projects. Just want to acknowledge that, we met 4 times, last year, and we talked about grant projects and DLCD Goal 5 cultural area rulemaking. Got updates from the Bend and Redmond Historic Landmarks Commission, and there was that Women's History Multi-Property Documentation Project, as well as a variety of other things that you do that we are so appreciative of. So with that, back to any questions that you might have, and any comments that you'd like to carry forward to the board in terms of either the programs that you directly engage with or other things that caught your interest.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is on the natural resources for the fuel reduction. The 3 of us were actually all in the same uh, walkthrough together at the Settlemyer House for the at the conference, and the Oregon State Fire Marshal did an on-site assessment, fuels assessment around this 2-acre property, while like 24 of us were watching as he was going through and assessing. It's like you need, limbing back your trees and making sure you got, 5 feet distance away from your perimeter of your house. You don't even want bushes and things underneath. Talked about, gutter screening and all of that kind of stuff. So that was fascinating to see. And I don't know if like, and apparently this is something, if you request it of the fire marshal, they will actually do an assessment on your property. So I don't know if there's something that like is from, community outreach perspective, at least in Deschutes County, is that something that could occur here too, or something similar that from at a county perspective, I guess?
Yeah, for
for that?
sure.
I don't know.
What we've got going on right now, the state fire marshal is propagating. So you may have caught in the news the whole fire maps.
Oh, yes.
Which became very unpopular and were ultimately withdrawn. And so in the aftermath of that, an effort was made to put forward a defensible space code at the state level that would be voluntarily adopted by jurisdictions. And so we
Sure.
had a presentation from the state fire marshal on that, and we'll be working with the board to decide what, if anything, they want to do with that. It turns out that jurisdictions, a variety of kind of Western states jurisdictions, deal with this through kind of a patchwork mosaic of different actions, some volunteer, some through the fire department, some regulatory. So you could imagine a scenario where if you came in for a building permit, we'd say, show me you cleaned up the property before we give you a building permit.
Oh, yeah.
So there's
Mm.
keeping moments that are possible there. There's certainly funding's a big part of that, and then finding the people to do the work.
Mhm.
And so we're going to be asking the board how, and they'd like to engage with that, if in a regulatory capacity or some other capacity. I was surprised to learn in that space that first 5 feet around your house is a really big deal. And,
Right.
if you've got pine needles and leaves in your gutters, or you've got mulch, up against your
Well,
house,
yeah, the bark mulch.
wood against your house, or your wooden fence connects to your house. There was some recent studies from the fires in LA, and for people who had maintained even 5 feet of defensive perimeter, the survivability of their house skyrockets at that point.
Wow.
You've done the home hardening where you've put the ember vents in so that the embers don't get sucked into your attic. That's a really big deal. And for people who had done all of that, plus done some limbing around the property, survivability was, I think it was something like 90% higher.
No way.
So it's
Wow.
it's a really big deal just to get some of those
Amazing.
resources away. So,
Mm.
of course, Oregonians and rural Oregonians in particular, can be hesitant to engage in communal cooperative action, or don't like to be told to do something, even if it's for everyone's benefit. And I count myself among that. I appreciate my neighbors cleaning up their property, but if I got a letter to clean up my property, I might be a little cranky about it.
Mhm.
So just recognizing that there's some community tension in that space and limited funds. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but it's just a real moment of, I think, a recognition, and driven in part by insurance. So my dad got a letter from Allstate,
Yes.
said, hey, air photo here. Looks like you got a bunch of flammable stuff around your house. Do something or your rates are going through the roofs.
Mhm.
We were out there with a trailer and a chainsaw that none of us were trained to operate. Taking out some vegetation the next weekend. So it's there's a variety of pressures in that space, and
Yeah.
apparently it really matters what you do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, we had talked about in the landmarks context, it would be surprising to me if we saw sort of a LA County style firemen, firefighters come out to your property every year and tell you what to do. And if you don't do it, your property gets liened for, that work being done by a contractor at
Hmm.
above market rate. So that's the LA County version of that. You shall do this.
Sounds very strict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would surprise me if we ended up there in short order, or maybe ever. But so lots of voluntary efforts, and we talked about maybe efforts to have outreaches to some of these historic sites that would be potentially fire damageable, and encouraging them, and maybe even trying to find some grant dollars for them to clean up so that we don't lose any of these.
Mhm.
It was interesting. You recall from our presentation from the sisters folks about some of these buildings that were saved by wet blankets.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they've made it a long way through lots of people's efforts, and it'd be a shame to lose them for lack of a little bit of vegetation clearing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess also looking back at the Lions Head and Beachy Creek fires from 2020 and seeing how many, historic structures, in the Cascades that were lost. That's another, real, it's devastating. So yeah, I think I think it's on a lot of people's minds as far as fire mitigation, but then again, I think getting that community involvement and like with those cleanups and stuff, it's like those things are awesome. They're so well attended and everyone supports it. And yeah, I hope we can continue with that. Yeah.
Eli, were you on a subcommittee for hardening of historic properties? Is that right?
Yeah, and to some degree, the same tour, it kind of influenced me as well to kind of rethink that. This was one of the brochures that was passed
Mhm.
out that day. And it seems like the fire prevention is so universal, at least in our county, that it really applies not just to historic building, it applies to everybody. It could be the building next to a historic structure that's more of a risk than the structure itself. Um, So maybe we can work with maybe the county newsletter or maybe kind of a more universal approach rather than us maybe getting too involved with each particular property or property owner. There, it seems like it would be an easier thing to do now that there are all these resources that are available at the state and local level. I've had a neighbor who had the fire department come out and assess her house. I've had tree companies come out and assess our house. And so the services are out there. And it's making sure that everybody knows they're there and you can use them.
And just to piggyback on that, I went to a session at the conference, not to jump ahead, but on substitute materials. And the Park Service did update their preservation brief on substitute materials. And some of that is because historic building materials are harder to come by, but also for hardening purposes as well. And so maybe that's something that we can try to put together some guidance on. And I can work with Eli on that, or how, whatever that subcommittee is doing on those efforts. I'd be happy to help on that.
For the transcript, I nodded enthusiastically.
Yes, you.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's all exciting. A lot of it seems really positive, and yeah, it's really good to see. I mean, I love seeing the community involvement portions of it, but you understand that the regulatory portion is also imperative. So yeah.
Right. I think that Skyliner Lodge, my understanding is that they were in the process of trying to replace their roof with a substitute material for the cedar shakes. I don't know if that ever came to the commission.
Not that we've seen.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it wasn't administrative though.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you, Will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I guess we could just segue into the Oregon Heritage Conference if we want to. That's our next action item. Yeah, that was 3 days nonstop. No, and it's like, it was probably 12 hours a day of just, yeah, amazing stuff. It was so well organized. I say I've been on this commission 13, 14 years. And I think that's the first time I've ever attended basically the full conference. And the only other one was one time it was held here in Bend, Redmond area a few years ago. And I was only able to do a couple of sessions. So this was a different experience for me. And I appreciate that our CLG grant funds got to go towards it, because I feel like the three of us here really benefited from the conference and just the variety. And yeah, it was just absolutely, yeah, excellent. I'm really glad I went.
Yeah, it seemed like a great use of the grant. And I know I got feedback from the SHPO, like that's what the grant is for. They were very
Mhm.
excited that that's what we used it for. And
Mhm.
so And I know for me as a new commissioner, that being able to spend some quality time with with Rachel and Eli, it was great. So I really appreciated it.
We actually got a couple of photos of ourselves at
Yeah.
at the Excellence Awards. So we're gonna maybe send full resolution versions of that Eli, I think you took or have them on your
I
feed.
We thought Tanya would.
Tanya would appreciate them.
Colorful graphics to put in our.
Kind of, yeah. Well, especially at the Excellence Awards because it's the Festhalle in Mount Angel, and so it's, yeah, you get the German Swiss theme in the background, and it's just
Yeah.
it was pretty cool. So, but yeah, the first day was mostly workshop oriented, so those were all really interesting. I know some of us missed some of Wednesday's early morning, or but the Heritage of the Excellence Awards was really good. The plenary speaker was fantastic, very motivating. Basically she talked about the premise of, from history, it's like instead of looking back 50 years, what does it look like looking forward 50 years when, it's like, what are people going to think of what we tried to do in this era? And yeah, it's like, what can we do to make things better, I think is kind of what this, I'll just summarize it really quickly, I guess. So, yeah, there was the next day was mostly seminars. I, of course, being an architect, went to a lot of the like building centric classes and whatnot, but there was also a couple of tours sprinkled in there. The one we did, a walking tour of Woodburn, was awesome. They highlighted like 2 or 3 different buildings in the downtown area, and they had, the presenters were usually like representatives of Woodburn, like the city manager gave us a walk or a tour of the Masonic Temple. And yeah, that was the excitement and the passion that, some jurisdictions have is just, it's really cool to see that. And they were genuinely appreciative to have the conference there, I could tell. And same with the smaller communities around the area as well. So, yeah, and then, yeah, like I said, that Settlemire mansion, which is, it's actually a museum, right in the sort of the downtown residential area. That was really interesting with the fire marshal, and then going on a full tour of that mansion itself. It was really good. And yeah, I definitely want to go to the next one. I know next year is, yeah, no, I think that's the Oregon Museum Association. Yeah, so that,
Where's the next one?
yeah,
There's-
well, there'll be a virtual one next year. Yeah, so it's all virtual, so it doesn't matter really where it's
Mhm.
headed, I think. But yeah, I think they alternate every other year. But yeah, the Oregon Museum Association is also having an in-person one in 2027. So that was my understanding, at least.
Yeah.
I think it gave us some momentum in terms of what are other ways that we can be collaborative with the other landmarks commissions. And maybe my understanding is that we used to do more tours and things as a commission, and how there's interest in that as well. So we can't lose our momentum on that.
No, I don't want to. And I mean, but I'm going to blame all of it on the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was, I think pretty much every year we were doing, especially in the summertime, we were doing a tour of, the Sisters area, or we did a really interesting tour of like Lapine cemeteries one time that was, these really kind of hard to reach areas of, South County. But we've had, I know we talked previously about doing ones for like certain barns and grange halls, and I mean there's several of those throughout the county. Of course, we have to get strategic as far as driving times and things like that, or how we do that. But I definitely want to be planning something along those lines. Yeah.
What is the best way to do that without being able to meet in between?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. So, you know, certainly without noticing a quorum, you know, certainly any two of you can go on an adventure, but in terms of something that feels more like a tour,
Mm,
you know, we don't have to have those. We can either, you know, repurpose one of these meetings for a tour. We've done, for example,
Mhm.
or that we could have, you know, something that would be noticed as a, you know, a quorumed meeting, but doesn't have really any agenda items, but to go look at stuff. And then, you know, either, you know, drive you around in a county vehicle or, you know, do some type of carpooling. So I think this would be great to, if you have particular things that you'd like to see, if you got an idea of what a good tour day might look like. I mean, it could be as little as, hey, we want to have a good tour day and we can turn Tanya loose on that. Or you could say, we're interested in seeing these sorts of things and we think we could put this together in an afternoon or an evening. And there's more than a few of us interested, certainly as we were in the past, interested and willing to do that for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that in the past, we were either scheduling like a separate summer site visit, or it was in lieu of a, you know, an in-person meeting here at the county office. So, but then again, there was a couple instances where we'd planned something and then the smoke was so bad that we postponed some of them. But yeah. No, those have been really good. But that was the interesting thing from the conference was the the ability to interact with some of the other museums and the historical societies. You know, the new Lapine Historical Society, they were there. I think there might have been some of the Three Sisters gals there. I don't know if I didn't see any of them, but yeah, there was I think 3 people from the city of Redmond Landmarks, us 3, of course. There's one person from, no, sorry, 2 people from city of Benz, and then of course planning staff, maybe 3. Yeah.
Oh, 2 from
I
the
don't even-
commission and
Yeah.
then Heidi Kennedy from.
Yeah, yeah, for planning. Yeah. So it was good to interact with a lot of those people. I mean, obviously I've known many of them for years, just from a volunteer basis for Preservation Month, but yeah, if in the future, when Tanya in particular does updates on what the other landmarks commissions are doing, it's like can we do a little get together and you know and actually have some one-on-one time with them. So I think that would be really cool. I don't know how we'd. It's just something to put on our radar. that-
Yeah, I think it would be nice to think about even having sort of an exchange where, you know, we get someone to appear by Zoom, you know, to talk about what they're doing in Rack City,
Right.
Mhm.
return the favor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and it was cool too, just from the conferences that you were meeting people from every corner of the state. So that was, you know, learning about, you know, a little tiny museum in Joseph, Oregon, or, you know, one of the excellence awards was this grassroots effort to fundraising for a museum in Rainier. And yeah, it's like, oh wow, it's like all these other places I've never visited, and you know, it's like I want to go there now. So it was great, all of it. So
Well, maybe we can start by emailing Tanya some ideas for if we wanted to do a tour, maybe early in the summer, or something like that. Maybe
Okay.
that would be a good way to
Good
start
idea.
since we can't email each other.
we'll just pester her with emails.
Yeah, we'll
We
just
love it.
Uh-huh.
send her piecemeal.
She says yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We pay her to be there all day, so please do.
Have we ever done any awards for outstanding preservation or heritage projects? Is that,
Bicycle and pedestrian.
Mm,
I
they-
used to serve on that committee and that was kind of a big deal for us.
mm,
The extent that we cajoled someone into doing something other than just letting their property deteriorate.
Nice.
Yeah,
Or we could nominate to Restore Oregon for the Demuro Awards or something. We could
That's true.
sponsor,
That
we
too,
could sponsor
yeah.
a nomination.
Yeah. One of the seminars I went to was directed through SHPO and Restore Oregon. And of course they do their most endangered, state projects and things like that. And so the one they highlighted this year was the Oregon Caves and outside of Grants Pass. I'm blanking on the name of the town. And so that, if there's even potentially high risk areas here, I'm thinking maybe the Tumalo Dam
Yeah.
wheelhouse might be something like when things like that are brought to our attention, it's like, is that something that could potentially get on the state's radar or something to see, what can be done, what kind of support can be drummed up that's beyond just the local awareness of it, I guess. So,
That would be an appropriate email for, to Tanya from each of you you could acknowledge, hey, somebody came and presented, interested in learning more about that.
mhm.
We are in contact with the BLM representative associated with that, and we're waiting for more information. So
Mhm.
obviously a lot can change in
Yeah,
the quarter between now and when you naturally meet next. So
right.
if you'd like more information, she can distribute that.
Mhm. Okay.
Because, sometimes those letters come when they're towards the end of the process and they're checking the box that all of the consulting parties have received their letters. And so if we wanted to have any more input into actually consulting on that, then that's something that we would probably need to be more proactive about.
And certainly Tanya could help lay out what, actual obligations we would have that, that is one of our listed sites.
Mm.
So that, that there would be some sort of, as I understand it, some sort of formal county process that would be part of any engagement with any changes to the site.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When you say the site, is that a small kind of site definition, or is it a little more encompassing of the area where the dam used to back up water? Or
Wheelhouse is as an individual site.
yeah, I was curious how much real estate it might include,
Oh, it's very
Is-
small, but
because the whole,
it is included with the dam.
yeah, I was going to suggest that the whole area is really sort of historic, actually. And
Maybe that's our tour.
yeah, uh-huh.
I always like-
There's more than just the wheelhouse, in other words.
Paint and then get in trouble with BLM.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You'll give us immunity, right?
He had the Friends group has something in place with BLM. He said some sort of agreement. Did anybody catch what that was? I'm surprised that doesn't allow them to do some sort of maintenance or painting over graffiti. But
I'm not sure,
Mm.
definitely something you could ask for Tanya, and we are in contact with the BLM representative for that, so
Mhm.
we'll have some information in that regard.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I'm almost wondering if the BLM may have told them not to clean up the graffiti or paint over it because it's possible that they have their own set of like graffiti cleaning solutions or whatever that they use already, or something they just didn't want to.
And also it looks a little bit,
Confusion.
the area that's being graffitied looks a little perilous.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a safety.
As a BLM, I'd want people to sign some waivers before I had them doing anything out there.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
we're making a list of things to email Tanya about.
Oh, my gosh.
She'll listen to this meeting as well. So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
if you express that you'd like further information on that. That should be enough for her to catch that as well.
Okay.
Great. I'm gonna do a little bit of brainstorming on my own. I'll make my list. I feel like there's just like so many things swirling around in my head during the conference. It's like, oh yeah, it's like we should do this, and then I forget. God, it's almost like I need to go back and review day by day some of the thoughts going through and see how they might apply here.
Yeah, good.
But
I'll do the same.
yeah. Did either of you have any other items on the conference you wanted to mention?
No.
Yeah. And when myself and one of the Bend commissioners hightailed it back to Bend for the First Friday kickoff for Preservation Month, but yeah, we can do a little bit of an update on that, but I wanted to, the next item was a subcommittee roundup. I think, I can't remember, was there like, there's like four?
Or
Yeah, four of them. The first one on that is the cultural resource work, and Mark and I have not been able to get together, even though we know that we have the enough information or guidelines with the DLCD to go with now. We haven't been able to catch up yet. And then wildfire and preservation issues, I don't know, has Lily been able to
We've
chat with
tried
you, Eli?
twice to schedule and she's had to cancel.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'll keep trying and we
Yeah.
may have new information
I
that
think we will. Yeah.
might make our job easier.
Yeah. Lots of good guidelines that we got. Camp Abbott, I know this was one where I know we had two commissioners on there. Mark was one of them, but I know that one, that has a topic item we kind of put a little bit to the side just because I think we were looking at more on the public awareness issues. So,
What
Yeah.
what was that one?
Camp Abbott is located in Sun River. Gosh, I know we went through like a brainstorming session to come up with these subcommittees initially, and it was a while ago. I'm gonna guess 3 years maybe. But I don't remember how we got to these top four the way we did. I almost would have to go if we look back on the archives to figure out exactly.
It might be
we
interesting to
started.
have a kind of a refresh of subcommittees, maybe at our next meeting, have an
Yeah.
to say, which subcommittees are serving, how are we using these, where do we want to allocate efforts?
Mhm.
Yeah, it might be good since it doesn't seem like we can remember to identify objectives for each subcommittee so that everybody's on the same page with what they're working towards and
I
have
think it'd be
something specific to
worth a refresh. Yeah.
And I think this was when we just had first reconstituted the commission after
Mm.
sort of being kind of non-existent for a little bit of time.
Is that clear?
So I think we were we were kind of kind of initially pretty excited, but we might want to revisit.
Yeah.
And maybe add to or delete or modify some of them. So
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And there are subcommittees, so I think we have full liberty to change or modify them as needed.
Mhm.
So,
Maybe that can be on the agenda for the next commission.
yeah. I think that's good.
Mhm.
I do feel like, well, Mark and I have definitely been procrastinating on some of it, so. Yeah. The last one, the last subcommittee though, was the public awareness issues, outreach and Preservation Month, which we are officially in. So happy Preservation Month 2026. The poster, which was created by one of the former Redmond Landmarks commissioners, Charlie Rucker. He does our posters every year. So that's available in PDF form. I know Tanya's been copied on all of the correspondence that the volunteer group has had. So those are ready to distribute however we'd like. And yeah, and then the full lineup of events is on the Deschutes Historic Museum's website. So if you just go, I think they have like Historic Preservation Month is one of their drop downs, and the whole list is there. But there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, the kickoff event was pulled together pretty quickly, and I say I honestly didn't have a whole lot of time to do much planning this year with the group, but the Westman Hotel in downtown Bend is where they ended up doing the kickoff.
Seems appropriate.
So there's a series, this is kind of like information for you, for the newer commissioners, there's a series of display boards. Well, I don't know if you've seen them. There's probably, oh my gosh, I'll have to guess, probably well over a dozen foam core boards with different highlighted historic projects. So it's like the whole gamut of, our most well-known project or, you know, historic structures or sites in Central Oregon, in Bend and Redmond, Tumalo, Lapine. Yeah, there, and Sisters in particular has quite a few. So there's several of those boards. And so we had, those were all put up around the Westman Hotel. So Heidi Slaybaugh from the Bend Commission, she said it was really well attended. They actually had quite a bit of foot traffic. So it actually worked out pretty good. Yeah, because there for a while we were thinking we were just going to skip doing a kickoff this year just because of most of people volunteering were at the conference. So yeah, it worked out pretty good, I think. So but I'll run through some of the other, there's tons of walking tours this year. There's and most of them are done by either the museum or the local historic or societies, but City Sisters has a lot, City Bend, or, you know, within Bend, within Redmond, Sisters has several as well. So I'd say that there's a lot to choose from this month. Every one of the commissions has a meeting, including ours, obviously tonight. City Bend's got one towards the end of the month, and then Redmond as well. There's a couple of presentations there's one at the Tower Theater. Sisters Museum has some stuff going on. City of Redmond has a preservation day on Saturday, May 16th. They have some open houses, like I said, walking tours. They have a keynote speaker. Yeah, it's really a nice docket of items that they have for that day. So yeah, it's really good. There's I guess it's there's at the Deschutes Historic Museum, they're holding a property research workshop. So you can actually look up, like if you have a historic home, it's like who's owned my home and how long did they live there? And I've actually done that on my own house when we first bought it too. So that was actually a class to tell you how to do that. Yeah, so there's quite a lot. So it's worth taking a look at, see if any of us can attend some of the items. Oh, the cool thing too this year is the Lapine Historic Society. They are doing sort of a little get together for their future building. That's on May 23rd, I believe. That's on Saturday.
When they're trying to move.
Hope
Yep.
that one.
So they're gonna do like a little celebration type thing. I know they're gonna have raffles, and they're trying to recruit volunteers and just general, you know, awareness of, you know, their existence and what they're trying to do. So yeah. And what else is on here? I'm trying to just skimming through the highlights.
Does the Board of County Commissioners do a proclamation acknowledging Historic Preservation Month? Will? They do. Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, and Tanya actually, unfortunately, I think she sent out an invite to several of you to accompany her to that, but I know nobody was available.
was-
Oh.
It was on Wednesday.
It was
during
during the
Oh.
conference.
Wonder I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in her.
Okay, good.
Nice blazer for that. So.
Oh,
Okay, great.
Glad she was
Yeah.
able to do that. Yeah, I was like, what timing? I mean,
Mhm.
yeah. It's literally the first day of the conference.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, so take a look at that if there's any of the events you can attend. I think
Mhm.
it'll be good to like kind of you know, dovetail off of the Heritage Conference and then do some more tours. We had so much fun at the ones we just went through around in Woodburn and Mount Angel and Staten and all of the towns around there. It's like, yeah, let's do it in Deschutes County too.
Sure.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for, unless there's other awareness issues and outreach, but I feel like the Preservation Month is really our kind of like the big, a lot of the effort for the year is kind of focused on that, but it's definitely something I feel like we're all motivated to continue for the rest of the year.
Mhm.
What's next? All right. So with that, we have our last agenda item would be staff and commissioner comments.
Nope, just thank you again for sending us to the conference.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
that was actually, it can be a little bit stressful to find what to spend the money effectively on, and it feels like everybody was really enthusiastic about that, and
Mm-hmm.
be a good target for funds in the future.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Yeah. I'm still kind of amazed that that's the first one in all this time I've actually attended. So,
Great.
yeah, much appreciated.
Well, thanks. I mean, you all donated your time to go to it too, so
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that as well. Do you want to see if Carol, who's been, we anticipated that Carol from Lopine Historical Society might have a public comment for you. She might have something that she wanted to bring to your attention. I know we passed through the formal public comment period, but if you wanted to provide a second opportunity to see if she was interested in providing a short comment, we've got time for it this evening.
Yeah, I'd welcome it.
Let me see if she'll accept a promotion.
Okay.
No public comments.
Okay.
Okay. We talked to her a little bit at the conference. And
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We encouraged her to attend and just kind of listen in on the meeting if she just wanted to get familiar with what our usual commission meetings look like. So, yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Well, if we don't have any other comments, I'd say it's time to adjourn our May 4th meeting. So I'll use the gavel this time.